This is Tatiana Monet. It's kind of nippy in my house, so I have my throw blanket on me here that I got from Home Goods. So if you're looking for some accessories for your home, I would suggest you shopping there because they're very affordable with or without my discount. But this is another episode of Talk to Tide, real people, real talk, real life. And I'm not even going to make my acknowledgments anymore about when I'm posting late because life be lifing, and I'm just, accepting the season that is showing up right now, and that's giving myself more time to do things. So I know that I'll still hit my goal of having a certain amount of videos by the end of the year, even if that means I'm not posting on the exact day that I want to post every time. So with that being said, I hope that since the last video you guys have been doing good, being prosperous, and if not, you will. I'll say that because, hey, life happens. Good things don't happen all the time, but bad things don't last forever either. What I wanted to talk about on this week's episode is broke-minded. That has been showing up for me for as far as like what I've been exposed to, the different types of people I've been running into for quite some time now. And the more I understand myself and other people and I'm just observing, the more I see how common it is to have a broke-minded mentality. And in some way or another, we all have either experienced it or are currently in that mindset, whether it's financial or not. So I did some digging because I'm like, okay, we use this word colloquially, but I like to figure out what is the textbook definition. So with being broke-minded, per Google, because me and Google are really good buddies, it says you value quantity over quality. Now there's multiple, so this was the first one, and it says people with a broke mentality usually buy cheap things. They believe that it's a waste of money to purchase things of value. The next definition says to have a broke mindset means to live your life with the constant fear and acknowledgement that you don't have enough or that you will run out of something. And the last one that expands on it even more, it says it usually correlates to how you make and spend your money, but even deeper than that lies a fundamental fear of loss and being without. So just by the definition alone, you can't solely attribute being broke-minded to just the concept of money. It could be losing things that you value as far as your possessions. It could also be losing the relationships that you have or the people that you have those relationships with. I like to think deeper to deep thinker. I like to think deeper into things because I feel like there's always more to something than what may be on the surface level. Kind of like our earth, right? Or our hearts. There's layers to all of that stuff. So I'm really big on layers and me relating that to food, cakes, salads, all of that. I haven't eaten today yet. So yeah, those food references might pop up a little bit more on this episode. But to stay on task, what I have been noticing when I run into people who are broke-minded, they, for one, it's a sense of desperation that some, and I'm not saying this as a general sense for everybody who may have this mentality, but some of the people that I have encountered, it's a sense of desperation. They make irrational, sometimes retaliatory or defensive type of notions. For instance, if you work in a certain field where you are in sales, and that your counterpart who may have this mentality may be quick to steal people walking in through the door. Like, okay, if you work in hospitality, ideally the restaurant industry, there's a rotation that you have when it comes to your table seating when there's multiple servers on the floor. So now, this did not specifically happen to me at one of my jobs, but it happened to me at another one of my jobs. So one server got fired because she kept taking people's tables when it wasn't their turn. You don't do that. Even if you're not broke, just having that mentality to take something and to feel like I gotta get it, and it's coming from another person, not only does should that do something with your moral calibration in your mind, but it also kind of gives you a peek into that person's mindset, as far as what did you lose, who damaged you, who hurt you, who did a really good job at bruising whatever part of you is jacked up right now, for you to feel like that's okay. You know it's not your turn. So you being desperate, or how other people may look at that as greedy, because even when you're greedy, you have this sense of I need more, I need more, I need more. You know what I mean? And side note, you see that a lot with gold diggers too. You know, women who are material first, and I'm not talking about I prefer name brand versus off brand. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about women who, in order to even speak to me, you got to show up with something in your hand, you know, or I need this from this guy, he's gonna pay this bill, get these nails done, do this or that. And but without that guy, without this sponsor, what do you have? Like, once that money runs out, or once that thing is bought, you're gonna still need for something else, and you don't have anything, you're not sustaining yourself. So you have to rely constantly on something else or someone else rather, to supplement you, to fund you, to feed you, to fuel you. That's not a good state to be in. And going back to the tangent I was on about that server who kept taking tables from people, when you have that, and then it's like, part of it is being desperate and greedy, but another part of it is really not giving a dang on. Like, I'm trying not to cuss, because you know my mama sometimes be watching these, even though I know I'm a whole adult, you know what I mean. But I also want to be mindful of how things are represented and how I represent myself on this platform. So there will be times I may have to cuss, Mom. I'm sorry about that. But if I could catch it, I could catch it. But it's not going to just be every word coming out my mouth is a cuss word, because we have a plethora of them to use. So let's just expound upon our vernacular, shall we, people? So anyway, some people just don't give a darn, because it's all about them. They're so closed off and so broken that all they see is what's going on in front of them in that moment. They are not long-term thinkers. They are not people who problem solve very well. They are people who kind of operate out of a victim mentality. Like, this happened to me, so I have to make sure I. And the world does not revolve around one person. So by you taking these tables from other people, now you getting in the way of their money. But if this was happening to you, you would have a whole conniption. Yeah, nah, that's not cool. Then at the other job, so even though that didn't happen specifically to me, because me and her didn't work on the same shift, and it probably wouldn't have lasted very long, because I wouldn't have take my tables like that if you want to. You might get me once, and that's just because sometimes things happen. You learn different folks, and you know, folks think that they can pull whatever on you. So hey, you know, you can't rule that out, that something can't happen to you not one time, all the time. But at my other job, somebody got me once, but it wasn't like it was something that I knew that they were known for. It was more so, hey, I don't want my table, can you take my table? I'm like, all right, cool. The next table would have been mine, because that person forfeited their turn. So even though you gave me your table, it doesn't start the rotation over again. I don't know who told you that. You haven't been in the workforce as long as me, because I'm 10 years older than this person. So maybe you don't know. You know what I mean? That's why I be praying for people. You know, I'm like, Lord, please, I pray for this person, because they know not. So she took the next table instead of me, and I'm like, okay, hey, let's have a talk about this. And, you know, hey, don't ever do nothing like that again. Have a conversation with me. See that I touched the table, because when you're in a server, you have markers or table cues to show that if a person has touched the table or not. Don't be oblivious to stuff like that. And I don't care if it's $5. If you have to be like that over a table, that's not the industry you need to be in, because some people really resort to certain reactions that could get them in a lot of trouble when you mess with their money. And some people like me have come a long way from certain responses where it's like, I don't want to go back. So I value the growth that I have, and it's not worth it to regress my mannerisms, my thought process, and my behavior for something like this. But then it's still like that. Like, wait a minute. Like, it may be a regressed. I mean, it may be a how. What is the word I'm looking for? It may be something that I have suppressed, but it's still there. It's in my toolbox. So don't make me go to my toolbox, because you not worth it. This situation's not worth it. But don't. How Jill Scott said in Why Did I Get Married, when she cornered the girl in the bathroom who took her, who, you know, had her husband or whatever, she was like, but don't tempt me. Stay away from the knives, okay? So anyway, that was that little joke reference. I'm not making threats to anybody, because another tangent. Y'all, I know what entails when you have a candid platform to talk on, whether it's a podcast, your lives, whatever feeds on social media. So I know that when it comes to people like us who put content out here and that is transparent content, that can rub some people the wrong way. Oh well. I don't believe in bashing people, but I do believe in people telling their story. And I also believe in there being a conversation about things that may either be unconventional, they're not ideal, they're not pleasant, they might be very, very uncomfortable. But that's life. Not everything in this world is peaches and cream and ponies and rainbows and sunshine. There's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on in this world. And whether I have that crazy person on this show, or I'm talking about a crazy situation, or someone is sharing their 2 cents about their truth, that's what this platform is for. It doesn't mean that I may agree with everything that's said when I have a guest. It doesn't mean that I support everything that's said when I have a person coming on to the show to talk. Or even if I'm expressing a certain topic, if I'm sharing knowledge and information about it, I'm not even forcing people to take a side. This show will always be something that highlights what's actually going on. And if there's more to a story, come on the show. But what there will always be is respect. So if you gonna disrespect my show, that stuff is good. I mean, not that it's your opinion, you're entitled to it, but I'm not going to allow disrespect on my show. There may be disagreements and stuff like that, but there's not going to be any disrespect on my show. And for anybody that chooses to be negative, I'm going to let you be good at what you think you're good at. Do that, but it's not going to happen on my show. It's not going to happen in the comments. It's not going to happen, period. So just know, anything like that will not be supported, and it will be removed. It will be. So, but if you want to share insight on something or tell your story on something, if you feel like you're connected to any of the information that I present or any guests that I have on the show, share your opinion, share your thoughts, put your side of the story out there. But bashing, it's not going to happen. Disrespect, it's not going to happen. Just like when you have a job and there's certain rules and regulations that you have to adhere to, that's the same thing with this. Just like when you're joining certain groups on social media like Facebook, and they say these are the criteria that you must adhere to in order to be a part of this group, same thing applies right here. If you want to bash people, go have your own show. It won't last that long, because people crazy. And people sometimes like to be tested, because you never know if you're talking to that person that's like, if one more thing happened, it's on, and you might create that one more thing. So just be careful of what you put out, because when it come back to you, you can't handle it, because that's not the life you live. So anyway, had to make that disclaimer, because this is Talk to Tot. Real people, real talk, real life. That's it. So back to this broke-minded mentality. And that it does correlate to that disclaimer that I made, because some people with a broke mentality or a broken mind, their concept of life is skewed. Their concept of life tends to be skewed, because you're coming from a a sense of trauma. It's a trauma response because whatever happened to put you in that state of panic or pressure, it is allowing you to make certain decisions without considering all of the facts. You're acting off of impulse. You have this need to fill whatever void is showing up for you at whatever cost. And the lack of thinking when you resort to such methods produces further unfavorable outcomes for you and the other people around you. So I want to be able to discuss that because it's becoming grotesque. It's very common now to just be running into somebody with this broke-minded concept, and that expands beyond money. Even though I gave a financial example, I'll give you an example of when it's non-monetary. So whether it was people that I got into it with in the past, or if it's just a misunderstanding between people that I may have had an interaction with in later years, what I find is that when I have those moments with people like that are broken minded, no matter what you say to them, nothing is going to get through. And in a way, how they act is a reflection on how they feel of themselves. Oh, I'm never going to have any money, or I'm never going to achieve this. I'm never going to accomplish that. I'm never going to be this person that I desire to be. And when you are around stuff like that 24/7, people have their moments. I'm not talking about us just being human. But when this is a character trait of a person, it could be very draining. I remember there was someone that I was trying to console. It's a female friend of mine. Why am I trying to merge my words together today, y'all? I don't get it. But it was a female friend of mine that I was trying to console. And she was but it was something that she was continuously dealing with. So it wasn't like something that was just new and fresh. Because you got to give people time to adjust. We're not robots. But it was just like this wall of, I'm not getting out of this. I'm staying in this place. Like, it's one thing to go to a dark place. It's another thing to choose to stay there. It's supposed to be a vacation spot, not a residence that you take up. So, no matter what was said, what was done, no motivational uplift, no hug, nothing was getting through to her. I got so irritated because I'm like, now I feel like you're taking from me. When you're a person that's very empathetic, sometimes things can rub off on you. Or even like, how people are big on using the word energy. I know years before energy was like so overly used, we would say, oh, that person is like a Debbie Downer, or it's like a dark cloud when they come in the room because it just brings the weight of the room down. Like, that still all is ways of saying energy. But yeah, it was just like, yo, energy is draining. It's just, it's heavy, it's dark, it's suffocating. It's like, I can't, I had to break out of that. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna let you be great at what you're trying to be good at over here. Me trying to make you feel better is not something you're receptive to in this moment. So I'm gonna exit this moment. I'm gonna leave you where you at. And sometimes you have to do that with people. Leave them where they're at. It's perfectly fine, because they're either going to catch up and catch on, or you just going to continue to stay ahead of them. Either way, it's not your loss, because they have to go through this part on their own. So that's exactly what I did. But I communicated my intention. That's another thing. Slight note. When you're dealing with people that are broken-minded and you actually care about them, communicate what you're doing, because you don't want to try to be wrong. Like, how you go about protecting yourself, don't do it in a way where you're still wrong. You have to be able to self-govern accordingly. So what I did was I let her know, hey, speaking my intention. I cannot be around you when you're consistently like this and you are choosing to be like this, and nothing else you allow in to pour good into you, and that's taking a toll on me now. So since you are more concerned about you, it's okay that I'm more concerned about me right now. And I'm going to let you be in this place by yourself. I'm not going to be in this place with you because I can't afford to be in this place because it's not something that I need right now. I tried to help you. You're not willing to let that in, and that's okay. But just know you're going to have to go through this part on your own. And I'll try to, see you later on. And I'll check on you or something like that. And then I walked off. I don't need the approval. I don't need permission. I left. And later on, like some days later, I was able to see her again, and she had a different attitude. I was like, there she go. Hey, we can hug, we can fist bump. Yes. And I'm proud that I handled it that way because I was still able to allow that person to be who they were without compromising who I was. I communicated my intentions so that our relationship could be intact, but I also did not match that energy. I did not give in to it and allow it to feed into my life. And that's sometimes what can happen when you dealing with a broke-minded person, especially if that's a friend of yours. Now, I'll use myself as an example. I do desire to be in a relationship and to have a significant other. And out of my 3 female best friends from Chicago, I'm the only one that does not have a relationship going on. We've all been in that point where we're either single or we have like an in-between, like just back and forth with an ex type of thing. But now in this present time, I'm the only one that is not, I don't want to say I'm not actively dating, because I'm willing to date, but as far as someone to see on the regular basis or someone to come home to, I don't have that. Now, granted, I did get out of a 5-year relationship. It'll be 2 years in a couple of months. So I'm not really stressing on that because I do believe that you need a breathing period to recalibrate, get back to yourself. But I also find times where when they're like around Valentine's Day or Sweetest Day, if you're from the Midwest, you celebrate Sweetest Day. Or if talking to somebody from Chicago, you know what Sweetest Day is. So times like that, or even just going on vacations and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like I remember one trip we went on, it was couples, but 2 of us were single, so we got a room together. So it was like, okay, we best friends, so they gonna be over there doing the couple stuff, and we gonna be over here being single, and it worked. I had a wonderful time. I'm not finna turn down no opportunity to travel. Promise you I'm not. So anyway, I said all that to say how I would show up in that broke-minded mentality is, I want my man. I ain't gonna have no man because the dating scene is so hard here in Atlanta. You don't know if they're gay or if they don't know how to like recategorize their baby mama appropriately, or you don't know if they were born a woman or not. Like it's blah blah blah, or they're broke and they ain't got nothing going on for them. And when I mean broke, like you have no foundation, like you don't have your own place, you don't have your own car, you're not really working like that. You know what I mean? Like you just finessing through life. You just finessing. Yeah, I can't date that. So it's like slim pickings out here if you want them to be attractive. Either that or I'm looking in all the wrong places. And so it's just like, well, where them places at? Let's create a little app that says this is where you can find them. But anyway, how that shows up for me, because I'm not exempt from having had that mentality, at one point. And that's something that you have to train your mind out of, is thinking that you won't amount, like your life won't gravitate to that point, or the fear of not ever accomplishing that, like right now, like, oh, because I haven't had a man in 2 years, like I'm not gonna have a man, and God just wants me to be alone with 7 cats even though I'm a dog person. Like that would be the definition of being broke-minded, is I fear that it's not gonna go beyond a certain point. You know what I mean? Another way that has shown up for me is when I am hitting, as I reflect on my life, when I would hit a certain financial woe, my whole mind would go into this survival thing, how I said, like a victim thing, or you know what I mean, like you're in a sense of desperation. I don't want to lose my house. I can't afford to lose my house, my car, nothing, because I know what it's like to not have my own place, not have my own vehicle. So when my finances are subpar, that's when I would find myself hitting that broken mentality mindset of fear of losing what I have. Or even when it comes to the relationships with people that are very close to me, because I've lost people, like permanently lost them, that are close to me. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't want this relationship to sour with this person that I value, or I don't want us to get so mad at each other where it's a point of no return. So let me navigate this situation another way, even if it's something that may need a break or whatever, fine tuning. That fear of losing that person in my life, or that fear of losing my possessions and not having my foundation, it puts you in a sense of desperation. It put me in a sense of desperation. And that's not a good space to be in, because when that causes stress. Some people show that externally. I'm the type of person that it shows up inside and outside. So internally, my hair may be changing, my face may look tired, or I'm very, very lethargic, just extremely fatigued. On the outside, that could look like I'm not executing properly, I'm not completing tasks on time, I'm showing up to stuff late. Like there's things that, as I'm over time have been learning myself, I self-examine all the time, and I'm so grateful that that is how I'm wired. Because when you regulate and self-govern, you're able to see what's going on, kind of like an outer body experience, and have an objective point of view on your own life. And I was like, yeah, okay, when I'm thinking of these broke-minded people, I've done some of those things. Okay, how can I fix that? So I say that to say this: if any of what I've said sounds like you feel the need to take from other people, like take other people's niggas. God. I don't know why somebody would sign up to be a mistress. I don't know, but it's not for me to know. Maybe that's an episode that I can have some women that are willing to come on here that are mistresses, and you want to let us into your mind. Please, I welcome the conversation, because it's a conversation. I don't agree with the behavior, but I want to know what the hell going on. Why do y'all do what are you doing? And why do you do it? But anyway, if you are that type of person where you fear not having a man, and you do things like that, like whether it's you get your body done, or you stay in an abusive relationship, or you take somebody else's man that definitely don't belong to you and never did belong to you, I want to know why. Or if you fear financial loss, why do you hold on to every penny that you have and you don't do things for yourself? Like I have someone in my life that's very close to me right now that the last thing they will spend money on is themselves. Now, if someone else is in need, they're a cheerful giver. They help them. But when it comes to what they need, they will literally pick up something that they want in the store, walk around the store with it, and when they're done shopping, they come to the register, and everything for them they put back. And I be telling them, like, get something for yourself. Pour into yourself. Get your hair done. Get your nails done. Like, they're doing those things now, hair and nails. But, like, when it comes to adorning themselves with something, bestowing a gift upon themselves, it's like tug of war. You don't, like, whatever that fear is that you're losing, or whatever you're choosing to acknowledge that is not true anymore, or maybe never was true, you got to get over that hump. You got to repair that broken mind. You have to nurse that broken heart. You have to. Because life is still going. So I say that to say ways to repair what I did, besides self-examining myself, because that's the first step. If you can't see what's going on, then you ain't gonna know what to fix. You're not gonna even identify what is necessary to be fixed. So for me, what I did besides examining myself, I really looked at my problems another way, that outer body experience. I'm like, okay, my job situation could be better, or my finances could significantly increase. Okay, that's a fixable problem. What are the steps that I need to do to fix it? Okay, well, my social life is changing. So even though, I don't have a person that I'm dating right now, what can I do to fix that? Okay, well, I can occupy my time with more social activities. Okay, so let me try to meet some new people. Let me join some other groups. Let me network, because 9 times out of 10, if I'm networking with somebody on something, they invite me to something, and then I meet more people. And even though it's in the realm of business and it's more constructive, you run into people that you have some type of things in common, and then that leads to you doing things with them, like, hey, let's go out to eat, or let's go to this activity and do this or that. So that was another thing that I did. And then what I do every single day, I go into that prayer room, I talk to God, and I ask him to show me what I need to see. And if it's something that he cannot show me, then help me recognize what is already there myself for me to see it, or tell it to me, whether it comes from him or another person, whatever it is. And if it's not any of those things, then let me be okay enough to just keep taking a step forward on the steps that he ordered for me. I'm very intentional about what I pray and how I pray it. And besides that, listening to my village. I listen to my village because I have the type of circle where we like to ask each other questions for clarity. Like, hey, this situation just happened. This is how I handled it. What you think? Because a lot of times when we are so wrapped up in our own thing, we become so blocked off. Our peripheral is skewed, or it's completely absent, that you need an objective opinion. And I seek that from time to time. And sometimes I just talk just to vent. But when I'm reaching out to somebody in my circle for objectivity, I get it. I get it. For my people do not cut corners. I'll tell you that. Anytime I call a loved one, they do not shortchange me on what they need to say. Sometimes it's brutal. But I need those things, and I'm glad that I have them in my life to be able to be like, yeah, nah, that wasn't cool. Or, nope, you were absolutely right. I'm glad you did it. Or, hey, you didn't do enough because that was wrong and you should have went even fuller. Like, you should have went harder on that. Like, whatever. So I get all of that. If those things are not things that you can do, because your life ain't my life. You don't have the people in your life that I have in my life. So if you are this broken-minded mentality, or if you know someone that has this broken-minded mentality and you're trying to help them, the first thing that you need to do is figure out what the real problem is. Because you can't address a fake issue. So if you know what the real problem is, then it'll be easier to get started. And write it out. Write it out. Put yourself around things that you can identify with so that your guard is down. It's kind of like an icebreaker. When you're in a business meeting or a lecture or something like that, and they want an icebreaker to kind of ease the tension in the room and to get everybody on the same page. That's a mental thing. That's a emotional construct so that you can level the playing field and allow people from different perspectives to get in the same space. Do that with yourself. If you feel so crowded in your mind, go somewhere that's really open, like a park or something like that, and just sit. Give yourself time with yourself. That's something that you can do at no cost to you. If you are not the type of person where that doesn't apply to you, if you are that type of person where this doesn't apply to you, then I would say YouTube, like YouTube University, depending on what you're looking at, because some people be putting some crazy stuff out there, but find a community of people that you identify with through YouTube or through social media outlets, because there's people out here talking about stuff and doing things, or they're able to share knowledge with you that you don't have to dig too long or too hard to find, and you're like, okay, I didn't think about this way. Either way, it's gonna be some type of external thing happening that allows you to see what's going on inside if you can't find it for yourself. That's the tidbit that I have outside of therapy, of course, or doing things that you like to do, like your hobbies. If your hobbies allow you to revisit your issues so that you can figure out how best to handle them, because that works for me. So if that works for you, get back into the things that you like to do, whether it's cooking, designing clothes, whatever that is. Get back into your hobbies, because those things help bring out your purities, and those things can help alter your mindset back to what it needs to be, so that your mind and your heart can repair. I feel like I've communicated the message that I need to, because what I don't want to do on this show at all is ramble. So yes, some videos may be longer than others, and some may be rather short. This is one of those videos. I think this may be the second video that is under 40 minutes. So, but I needed to share that. I know that there's people out there that needed to hear that. Being broken-minded is not something that you should be ashamed of, but it's something that can tarnish and jade and manipulate you into other realms of yourself that you probably shouldn't explore them if you can't handle how far it goes. And there's no benefit in that. When you think about it, do things that serve you, that provide you a benefit. Make sure that you are able to look at yourself. Make sure that when you are analyzing your environment and the people in it, you're seeing them for what they really are and not what you're choosing to see with your subjectivity. Give yourself time and grace and put in the work. I'm doing it and it's working for me. And granted, yeah, I'm still single and I'm still navigating what I need to do career-wise, but my mindset is repairing. It's an ongoing thing. It's not going to happen overnight. So I know if I can do it with everything that I've been through, I know that you can do it. Because what's bad for me in my world may not be bad for you in your world, and vice versa. You may feel like you've been through hell, and I may feel like, oh, that was a walk in the park for me. So no judgment there. But if I can get through what I'm getting through, I know you can. So if you haven't heard it from nobody else today, you're hearing it from me. I believe in you, and I know that you can get to the next level. You can phase out of this, because it's a necessary transition. You don't want to sit here and be your own worst critic to the point where, because when everybody else give up on you and you didn't give up on yourself already, the Lord just waiting on you to show up. He just like, look here, something gonna have to happen. So I say that to say, question yourself on, are you broke-minded? Is any of what I said applicable to you? And if so, put in the work to fix it now. Don't wait, because life is not waiting on you. So I thank you guys for tuning in to this week's video. I hope that you were able to learn something. If you can connect with any of the material that I have presented today, or if you want to add on to it, drop them comments below. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at Tatiana Monet. Follow me on TikTok at Tatiana_Monet. And you can follow this podcast on Instagram at Talk to Tot. This is streaming on YouTube video-wise, and it's streaming on Apple Podcasts for the audio. So I thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Talk to Tot. Real people, real talk, real life. Your host, Tatiana Monet, is signing out until next week's video. Have a good one.